This week, the federal government's focus has been on fly-in, fly-out and what it means for mine workers and their families. But outside the resource sector, there's increasing concern about the jobs left behind and just who will fill them as WA's skill shortage continues. There are shortages right across the board, and the experts say we simply can't train enough people fast enough to fill those gaps. So, how much worse is it going to get? Claire Nichols reports.
Mia Coote is just 1 day old. Born into a state that's undergoing massive growth, it's also a state facing a massive skills shortage, a shortage that starts in this very room.
Good morning, Chris. How are you?
Very well.
WA has one of the lowest doctor-to-patient ratios in the country, and specialists like obstetricians are in short supply.
Okay, I want you to get up and moving today, and we've got painkillers here to keep you nice and comfortable.
According to a state government report, WA already needs another 100 plus obstetricians, and that's expected to blow out to more than 200 by the time baby Mia is 9 years old.
Well, Western Australia's in the middle of a baby boom, so public hospitals and private hospitals all through Perth and through rural and regional areas, women having babies in record numbers. So that's a challenge to the services available and the capacity they have.
And obstetrics is by no means the medical specialty facing the biggest shortages. General surgery, neurology, palliative medicine, public and sexual health have all been deemed to be at critical risk, with massive shortfalls predicted in the years ahead.
There's a lot of new medical students coming through. We've got to give them really good jobs as junior doctors, and we've got to train them to be the GPs and the specialists for the next generation, and we've got to make sure we get it right.
The shortages in the medical sector are just one example of the problems being faced right across WA. The Chamber of Commerce and Industry predicts that by 2020, WA will be facing a shortfall of more than 210,000 workers. And while the economy is being powered by a mining boom, it's the industries outside the resource sector that are really set to feel the pinch. The CCI predicts the resource sector will need another 69,000 workers by 2020, but that's only about 14% of the total workers that'll be needed statewide. Construction will need the most workers by far, but there's also significant shortages predicted in health, retail, education and hospitality.
A lot of chefs I know are moving into mining, whether it's, drillers, offsiders, driving trucks, cleaning, anything, and it's, being a chef isn't the best paid job. I think I do it for love.
Talina Menzies is the executive chef at 3 Perth restaurants. In charge of hiring and firing, she's finding it increasingly difficult to find qualified chefs to work in her kitchens. It's predicted that WA will need another 14,000 hospitality workers by 2020. But with mining's hefty wages luring workers away, serving up those staff will be a tall order. She hopes the answer might lie in the next generation. She's been appointed by the state government to act as a hospitality ambassador, visiting high schools to give students a taste of the cooking life.
Doing a little cooking demonstration, trying to get them a bit excited about food and say, hey, it's not just full of old man chefs and it can be quite a cool lifestyle, and you can travel the world, and you can end up doing really well in your career if you want to, and it's a really cool industry to get into. Stop going to the mines.
Same thing again, through a variable resistor we can put our armature in here.
With the predictions down on paper, the challenge now is to find enough people to fill the voids. The state and federal governments have made training a top priority. At this centre in Balcatta, electrical apprentices are being taken through the basics. The centre is funded by both levels of government and has graduated more than 2,000 apprentices this financial year.
If you don't train, you have skill shortages. If you have skill shortages, it drives up costs for everybody, the consumer, the employer, it drives up wages. It's just a good thing to do is to train apprentices.
But no matter how quickly people are trained up, there simply won't be enough workers to match the demand.
Regardless of what we do, we simply will not have enough workers in Western Australia. We do rely and will continue to rely on skilled workers from overseas.
Peter Collier says skilled migration is a must and wants to start in Ireland. Last year, he led a delegation to the Emerald Isle in the hope of attracting workers struggling through an economic downturn to work in WA. He says while all parties liked the idea, the inflexibility of Australia's visa system has seen the plan fall apart.
And they are salivating at the prospect of coming to Western Australia. But quite frankly, they are becoming so frustrated with the lack of flexibility with the visas that they're not even bothering anymore.
The employers are using the system in record numbers. They are able to bring in the labour they need. WA's share of the number of 457 visa holders is now about 1 in 4. That's grown enormously, so it's proof that the employers are using it.
The Federal Skills Minister, Chris Evans, says it's not the visas that's the problem, but the approach of the state government.
Well, Mr Collier is not the Foreign Minister. He had no capacity to negotiate with the Irish government on such matters. That's the first point. Secondly, he didn't talk to the federal government before going. So I think he was a bit out of his depth.
Look, I just throw my hands up in despair, to be perfectly honest. I feel like I'm talking to a brick wall as far as the federal government is concerned.
While the Irish experiment didn't go as planned, an invasion of a different kind is looking more likely. Earlier this month, it was the Marines touching down in Australia, but more Americans could be set to move in as the federal government targets US workers to plug gaps in the mining sector.
We've got a non-discriminatory policy, so it doesn't matter whether it's Ireland, India, the Philippines or America. It's up to the employer who they nominate. But one of the advantages for Americans, of course, is that they're largely English-speaking and they've got skills and industrial experience that's very similar to Australia.
While the federal government looks overseas to find more workers, many believe there's still large pools of talent yet to be tapped within WA. The Chamber of Commerce and Industry believes while migration must be part of the solution, there should be more emphasis on identifying and training more women, Aborigines, older Australians and people with a disability to work in areas of need. Everyone, though, agrees that no matter what is done, the skills shortage will remain a problem well into the future.
We're always going to have issues in Western Australia because we have a relatively small population in comparative terms, yet we have a vast state which brings with it a special demands.
For baby Mia, though, that shortage is likely to mean work, in whatever field she chooses.
Every time in Australia we talk about these things, we try and make it a problem. It's a great opportunity. You know, we're actually getting people trained up, getting good jobs, being paid well. It's a great problem to have, in my view.
Claire Nichols with that report.